I have my eyes peeled this morning for a few strong pillars. Looking for the pillars. Hopefully you're curious about that. Is anybody curious? Great, great. What is a pillar and why is Reverend Brenda looking for them? Here's our context. This morning we are going to, through a spiritual looking glass, examine Unity Village Chapel, this precious community of beloved spiritual travelers who comprise this community. I don't know what you all have for a perspective of UVC. I look at UVC as the Mecca of the Unity movement. And I feel like this ministry sets the tone of consciousness for all Unity ministries. For those of you who've had the privilege of physically being on Unity Village grounds, I'm sure you can recall that experience, that initial visit, and for me, just the wonder of it, and the privilege of sitting in that activity center and being a part of a UVC service. Back to the subject. What are pillars? What do they look like? What does a pillar look like? And what do they do? Here's our official definition. A pillar is a person or thing regarded as reliably, keyword, reliably providing essential support to something. Got that? A person regarded as reliably providing essential support. So what do we suppose a pillar looks like? Is it a grandparent? Is it a child? Is it a teen? A young adult? A parent? A family? A male? A female? A non-binary, gender fluid person? Yes, 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 yes. So I don't know if you're catching this, but that is great news, because that means each of us, any of us, is already qualified to be a pillar. We're qualified by our looks. Good to know. We're qualified by our role in life, by our role in our spiritual community. Now, what do we suppose a pillar does? What does a pillar do? Well, there's a myriad of things. So here's just a few examples. They show up consistently. Yes, not a hit and miss deal. They show up consistently. They connect heart to heart with others in their spiritual community. They support others in their spiritual travels. They study Unity teachings, not just on Sunday morning, but day to day, studying Unity teachings and demonstrating Unity teachings by practicing principle. Pillars consistently give generous financial support to their spiritual community. Here's a news flash. A ministry requires money to operate. They teach others by their life example, by living Unity principle. And another thing that a pillar does is they generously volunteer their time, their energy, their God-given talents. I know many of you. I know many of these faces, and I know the role that you fill at Unity Village Chapel. You are seen, you are deeply appreciated, and you are valued. So pillars, they're strong enough to be vulnerable, yes? And pillars are deeply curious. Pillars are constantly deepening their self-awareness and their spiritual maturity. So now we know what a pillar is. It's a person regarded as reliably providing essential support, reliably providing essential support. And we know that a pillar looks like a spiritual being moving around this human realm. And we know what a pillar does, yes? They volunteer, they study principle, they study truth, they live by principle, they generously give of their time, their energy, their talent, and certainly of their treasure. And pillars connect to support one another on our spiritual path. We've all been in situations, I call it rolling in the ditch. We've all been in situations where we're rolling in the ditch and we've gone off the rails. We've lost our way. We've lost our sense of connection. And we can reach out to anyone in this Zoom room, anyone on Facebook, and say, help, I'm lost. And there's a lot of assurance in that, isn't there? Knowing that we have a spiritual community, a circle of peeps who are interested in our spiritual path and our spiritual development. So if Rev Brenda is giving a lesson, there's always a how-to. That's how I roll. 4 steps. 4 steps. Feel free to take a note. How to be a UVC pillar. Number 1, we visit a spiritual community. Many people that come to Unity have come from another faith tradition. Yes, I stumbled into Unity, I think it was in the early to mid 80s, because my running buddy invited me to a Sunday afternoon workshop. And I said, what's it about? She said, codependence. I'm in. So that was my first unit. I didn't go to the service. Hell no. I went to the afternoon workshop because I wanted to know how to be less codependent. And I noticed the energy in that group. So on the recess of the workshop, I went up to people and I said, do you attend here? This is Unity Center of Cedar Rapids, by the way, my home ministry and a ministry that I served for 10 years. And I went up to people and asked, do you attend here? What's with this place? Because you can feel it, can't you? You can feel it when you step into a Unity. So you visit a spiritual community and you find out if it's a fit for you. And here's my prayer about your fit. My prayer is that you feel spiritually challenged. Is Rev Erin a master at that? You feel spiritually challenged. You feel called to step up your game. For me, that is what Unity Ministry is about. That is why I'm connected to a spiritual community. So we visit a spiritual community. Once we've found that fit, we show up consistently. Step 2, show up consistently. And we reach out in that showing up to connect with our fellow spiritual travelers. I don't get to spend any these days one-on-one time with any of you, but there are some of you that I have a specific connection with. With Nina and me, it's all about the movies. So that is a spiritual connection. It is a like-minded thing. We connect with people. Unity offers a plethora of small group opportunities. This Adventures in Spirituality that's coming up, holy cow. We get to go down that road with our little group of peeps, and that helps us put down roots. Visit a spiritual community. Show up consistently. Step 3, what about membership? I initially attended Unity Center of Cedar Rapids for 11 years when the minister invited me to a board meeting and the board invited me to join the board. And I looked around the room and said, don't you have to be a member of a ministry to be on the board? And everyone's mouth fell open. They're like, you are not a member? I am not a joiner. And so I committed to membership. Committing to membership means that I stand for my spiritual community, that I reliably provide essential support. Membership is about putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is my place, right? This isn't Erin's ministry. It's not Brandon's ministry. It's your ministry. Do you get that? This is my place. I belong here. And these are my peeps. That's what membership is about. Step 4, we begin to ponder how we can give. How can I give? How can I provide that essential support? What does that look like for me? How can I give to a spiritual community that nourishes me? They care for my heart and for my soul. There's lots of elements to this step. Again, have I mentioned it enough times yet? We give of our energy. We give of our spiritual gifts. We give when and how and where we can. And essential support means that, oh, I don't have my coin here, the sustaining contributor. Essential support means that Unity Village Chapel can count on my tithe every month. They don't have to wonder. Brenda contributing this month, this week, Nina, Sanja, Phil, Jan. They don't have to wonder if I'm going to give or not. That's essential support. So there's a lot of talk here about giving, and I want to make a specific point here. If one is new to Unity Village Chapel, to a spiritual community, we are likely coming here to receive. Yes? I mean, I was and still am a hungry sponge. And I wanted to know it all, and I wanted to know it right now. Dear God, give it all to me and give it right now. I have learned patience over time. And I've also, for me personally, learned the more I studied, the more classes I took, the more principles and divine laws that I learned, the more I felt like I don't know nothing. Because for me, it started up here, taking in the information, and then it becomes embodied. And as, for me, again, as it is embodied, my mantra is Spirit is in the midst. Spirit is in the midst. And most of the time, that's all I need to know. So if you are on this path in this moment as a receiver, hello, we see you. Welcome. We welcome you with open hearts and open minds. I want to remind us all that this trek to pillarship, this trek it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's a trek meant for the long haul. Most of us know that there are natural stages to our spiritual evolution. Yes? There's curiosity, there's openness, and there's seeking spiritual nourishment. And all of that underlies our desire to transform. So naturally, over time, in our individual process, we transform from being a receiver to becoming a giver to becoming a pillar. And this natural ebb and flow of giving, receiving, it's about the law of reciprocity, because one cannot give without receiving. One cannot receive without something or someone giving. And therein lies the balance, the yin and the yang of a thriving spiritual community. So, pillar yet to be peeps who are earnestly willing, I should say, to expand their spiritual breadth and depth. And that desire for each and every one of us, that desire impacts Unity Village Chapel as a whole, does it not? Our individual energy, journey, path, desire. So as we individually and collectively move along the spiritual continuum, the ways in which we consciously choose to invest in our community matter. Because we all give in different ways. We all give from our unique expression. So you either can or you do make a difference here at UVC. I can make a difference. I do make a difference. And know, my fellow spiritual travelers, that your mere presence here brings a particular energy to the collective. Can you touch it? When you come into Zoom and you look around the screen and you see your fellow spiritual travelers, oh, there's Kelly. She has this going on in her life. Oh, there's Phil. I remember that time he gifted me with the most beautiful prayer. Our presence here makes a difference. And I'm going to invite us here into a brief reflection time, because it's important to me to ask, when have we recently questioned what level of energy we're bringing to the UVC table? Just look at it. There's not a wrong way to do it. There's not judgment around it. It's a self-assessment. So thinking over time, maybe from the time you stepped into Unity, for some of us, that may be months. For some, it may be years. For some, it may be decades. How have we evolved over time? And for me, one of our core, what is the word I want? How you say, core measuring stick is, what is my relationship with spirit, with divine law, divine mind, divine love, the infinite, the universe, God, whatever, however we identify it, the mojo, I like to call it the mojo, or the force. How has that relationship and understanding evolved over time for each one of us? Can we see movement in our understanding? Can we see depth in our understanding? So what is our understanding or relationship with spirit now as opposed to a decade ago? A decade ago was 2011. 2011. Is our understanding more clear? Is it deeper? Is it broader? Do we have more questions than we've ever had? Because I love that. I love a great spiritual rabbit hole to which there are no clear answers or no quick answers. So we ask ourselves, where was I on the spiritual continuum in 2011? Where was I 10 years ago? What did I felt like I know? And I'm talking divine wisdom or gut. We know that we know that we know. Where was I 10 years ago? Where am I now? Another measuring stick for me is to look at who or what has gone by the wayside because it or they no longer benefit. Sometimes people in our lives go by the wayside for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes things, stuff. It always strikes panic in my husband's heart when I'm in a clearing out mode. And he starts to see the bins come down and starts to see me loading my car. It has eased over time as we've had more conversations about circulation and why that's important and why that works so well. But oh my, that's been a trip. So what has released? What have we released? Here's a good one. Here's a good question. What are the golden nuggets that we have ingested here at Unity Village Chapel over the years? What are the nuggets that we have ingested? And even better, what are the nuggets that we have embodied? Truth from which we live. What are some of those examples now as compared to 10 years ago? We look at things like our self-awareness, our spiritual maturity, our propensity to manipulate, zing, or overmanage. Whoops. What about our relationship dynamics? What were our relationship dynamics like 10 years ago? And how do any of those areas feel today? Hopefully, in some measurable way, each and every one of us can identify increased self-awareness. We can identify our study of truth, the New Thought writers that we've read and discussed and pored over. We can identify greater spiritual maturity. And fifth principle, we can identify habitual application of principle. I'm sure that most of us can reach in our hats and pull up examples of situations or scenarios where we now apply principle, whereas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that wasn't even in our realm. That ability wasn't even in our reach. And now we can feel that trigger and think, oh, we turn to principle, we turn within, we turn to divine wisdom. Who was I on the spiritual continuum 10 years ago? Where was I on the spiritual continuum? Have I moved? You might want to write that down. That's a big question. Have I moved? Am I stationary? Am I stuck? That's big, I'm saying. Am I here to receive? Yes, yes, I'm here to receive. I expect that from Reverend Erin every week. Am I here to be fed and nourished? Oh, yes. Am I here to feel cared for by others? Most certainly. And then we spin that coin around. Am I here to give? Am I here to feed and nourish my fellow spiritual travelers? Am I here to care for others? Do I show up consistently? Have I invested an effort in connecting with my peeps? Have I participated in any of the small group ministries to begin to put down roots? And this is a really important one for me. Have I committed to an official membership here? There's a group of us that went through a membership orientation. I don't remember. I think it was late winter, early spring this year. I was literally talking to Reverend Erin one day and said, you know what? I could be a member at UBC. And both of our mouths fell open, and it's like, you don't have to live in Lee Summit. And I don't remember exactly, but I want to say maybe half of our class was from places other than Missouri. When I commit to membership, I put my stake in the ground and say, I belong here. These are my peeps. This is my place. This is my ministry. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask again, am I a sustaining contributor? Consistently and generously giving of my financial good? Have I made any inquiries to the minister, to the board, to ministry team leaders about what can I do? How can I help? Here's what I'm good at. Oh, no, I suck at that. No, thank you. You don't want me there. Because we're not looking to fall short. We're looking to share our good. So peeps who are willing to be a part of intentionally building a thriving ministry are consciously moving from that place of receiving to giving to pillarship. It's September, which means that I have an ulterior motive in my 10-year look back. As I mentioned, I think it's important to look at and measure our individual progress on the continuum. And let's expand this looking glass to UBC as a whole. Has UBC evolved over the last 10 years? Okay, some of us think we have as a community. I know that the staff purpose and vision has been reimagined, and I know that that is an evolving piece of work. And here's what I know for sure about UBC peeps. You all are social beings. You love to get together. You love to party. You love to celebrate. Might have been one of my motivators in membership. So this depth of connection, and I've said this to Erin, I can't tell you how many times, when I have been there and I have been a part of a sacred piece in a congregant's spiritual journey, I say to Erin, man, don't overlook that. Don't take that for granted. Your people, these people, my peeps, deeply care for one another. Deeply care. And that depth of connection has expanded over the last few years. Small group ministries, the prayer group, the love and wellness group, the chaplain group that meets. And let us not forget, where's John Fry? I think I saw his name somewhere. Let us not forget Village Mike. Yes. Some of these things we just miss so dearly. And I insist that there will be a day where we're all gathered in the acoustic alcove, rocking to some great music. So if I'm keeping track of time, about 18 months ago, your minister had to turn on a dime to figure out how to make all these UVC offerings available to everyone via technology. And I know just pieces of it, but I know that it was no small feat to turn that ship around, and that has continued to evolve and improve as we've gone along, right, Zoom team? We're all sitting behind the scenes on a Sunday when technologically things are not going. And I kind of had a little mantra that we all remain centered and calm when it hits the fan. So I don't have time to go into everything that your minister, that your staff, your board, your volunteers have navigated in all of these COVID challenges. We all know it's a lot. And September 1 is an auspicious date. You know what it means? Where are you? Where are you, Erin? Show me your face. Where is she? Come out, wherever you are. Oh, does anybody see her? I don't see her. It is Reverend Erin's 10-year anniversary. 10 years. And here's what I know for sure about ministry. No matter how many working days are in a minister's contract, this role pulls us in 24/7. There is barely a waking moment that we are not mentally in ministry work. And I know for sure, I do know a few ministers in the field, having been in Unity I've been attending conventions since 2000, so that's 20 years. I do know many Unity ministers, and Reverend Erin is a minister who is truly outstanding in her field. Yes? Can I get a high five on that? And some of you may or may not know, that's what I call high 10. I do that with Georgia, high 10. Some of you may or may not know that she is widely known and highly respected across the Unity movement, as well as another organization, Association for Global New Thought. Reverend Erin is a rare bird. A rare bird. She is relatively young. She's a remarkable single parent. She's a musical talent. She's a skilled speaker and a force of consciousness that truly puts her in the top tier of the ministry field. We don't always know what we have until we visit other ministries and we see those ministers speak and we see them in action and we think, thank God. Thank God for our minister. Thank God for Reverend Erin. So what I'm getting at, the point I want to drive home is, do you all know, value, and appreciate your rock star Reverend? 10 years. I looked up a few things last night because I was curious about this 10-year mark, which is how long I served in my other ministry. And personally, I crashed headfirst into the burnout wall. And that's a whole nother story. The average stay for a minister in one church is 4 years. Average stay, 4 years. Can you all imagine starting over and training a new minister every 4 years? Exhausting. And reinventing the wheel pretty much every time. Here's a gasp. 50%, a full half of ordained ministers do not last 5 years in the field. 50% don't last. A 2013 study from the Schaefer Institute reports that 1,700 ministers, now this is across all faith systems, 1,700 ministers leave the ministry each month. Sanja, that woke you up, baby. And they cite these reasons for their exit. Gosh, what a surprise. Burnout, depression, feeling overworked. Now, according to the study, 90% of ministers report working 55 to 70 hours a week. And again, a full half, 50% of them feel unable to meet the demands. Heather, you can relate, maybe Sanja can. The Achilles heel of my ministry was always, I am not enough. I am not enough for this. So I see a huge problem in our profession, and it's one that needs to be addressed by heads of denominations, by boards, and certainly by ministers. I know as a congregant, it's truly impossible to comprehend what your minister's job entails. And my point this morning to honor Reverend Erin's 10-year anniversary is you have a shining jewel serving you all. A shining jewel. And I know how deeply she loves you. Here's your assignment, boys and girls. I'm asking you to love on her. I'm asking you specifically this week to shower her Facebook news feed with your appreciation. Specifically, what you love and appreciate about her. Happy anniversary to my beloved Reverend Erin. And incidentally, happy birthday this week. Namaste.